Are you ready? You think you could tell us what to do? You think you could tell us what to wear? You think that you're better? Well, you better get ready. Bow to the masters. Break it down!
Welcome. This is the West Box Scores Lucha Royale series. In the next 4 episodes, we'll dive deep into wrestling nostalgia. That's right, if you're like us and you enjoy the novela that is the WWE, WCW, ECW, New Japan, Impact, and WWE's newest rival, AEW, then this series is for you. We'll start it off here in episode 1, where we talk about our humble beginnings as pro wrestling viewers, discuss some memorable moments I'm sure you'll recognize. So without further ado, let's get into it.
All right, guys, we're here to talk about wrestling. I hope you guys are ready. So first things first, what is your first vivid memory of wrestling? Sonny, you go ahead and lead us off because you're a big wrestling fan now. So what was your first wrestling memory as far back as you can remember?
I am not a big wrestling fan now, unfortunately.
Oh, dude, you're talking about that WWE Network. You're always on it now.
Dude, I can't even keep up. AEW, WCW, WWE, WWF, like, which one is it, man?
All of them. Give me all of them.
What was the other one that was like the hardcore wrestling circuit?
ECW.
ECW, thank you.
EC-Dub.
So, although I'm here, I'm definitely here for all the shoots. I feel like the internet was created for 2 reasons, and that was porn and wrestling shoots. So it's like, and maybe that speaks to me that I spend more interest in watching wrestling shoots than the former.
Well, there's only so much porn you can watch, and then with the other hours of the day, you can watch wrestling shoots, man.
But it's wild. Like, I'm definitely here for, I will go down the rabbit hole that is wrestling shoots for hours of dudes just talking about how the business was back in the day and who had heat with who, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, I'm definitely here for that.
Okay.
But yeah,
so that's what you're here for now. But what was your first memory as a kid? Because of course we all grew up watching wrestling. Like, that's when we get into wrestling as kids. So as your kid memory, what's your first memory as a child seeing wrestling?
That I can vividly remember. So here's the thing. I got introduced to it. I'm the youngest of 3 siblings. I have 2 older sisters, and I have a few older cousins. And I vividly remember going to one of those cousins' house, not by choice, obviously. I was just, they dragged me along as the little one. And we were all gathered around the living room TV, and it was to watch WrestleMania.
Nice.
It was to watch WrestleMania, and that was it. I don't remember exactly specifically which this was 1990, so I couldn't tell you which fight it was. 1991 maybe, but that was the time that it was first introduced to me, that I was like aware of like what's going on here. And then, so 1991, 1992, that's it. I was hooked. So the whole superpowers happened when? In 1990?
The year before, 1989.
1989. So
that was my first wrestling memory, but go ahead.
When they broke up, I guess, might have been the next year. Because I don't know. It wasn't a long run,
okay,
right?
So I'll tell you this. We'll kind of interweave everybody's stuff here, because my first wrestling memory is WrestleMania. The same, very similar thing to yours. Like, I remember going over to my cousin's house and seeing WrestleMania on the TV, and it was Hulk Hogan, Macho Man, WrestleMania 5, the Mega Powers Explode. So that was 1989. If you're saying 1990, that's WrestleMania 6, Hulk Hogan versus the Ultimate Warrior.
There it is. That's okay. Okay, my first ever favorite wrestler is the Warrior, baby. That was the guy, because that very next year I was the Warrior for Halloween.
Okay.
And because of the face paint, it was like,
and the music.
Easiest. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, dude, it was just, and the roids,
Of course, the roids played a part of it a little. The whole gimmick of the Ultimate Warrior is awesome. Just running down the ramp into the ring, shaking the ropes to that music, the face paint, the tassels hanging down the biceps, the tassels on the boot, just the coolest thing ever to see as a kid. This comic book character come to life.
So Warrior and Macho Man Savage were my two favorite wrestlers, first ever of all time. And that's where I got hooked. That was my gateway drug. And then somewhere I kept it going, man. I kept it going all the way. I had to do some research, and I went back to the archives that is the WWE Network, and I was trying to figure out, where did I stop? Like, where does this not look familiar to me? And the year was 2002. It was basically right after WCW had been acquired and that whole lineup was being slowly introduced. That was it for me. Like I was out. It was Brock Lesnar's like rookie season, basically in the WWF at the time, and that was it. I was out from there, and I would return sporadically, but we'll touch more on that.
Right.
So yeah.
So that's your first instant. You kind of go in and out as you were mentioning. So Donald, do you remember your first instance of watching wrestling? When? Who?
Yeah. For me, it was my cousin that actually was the one that was watching it prior to me watching it, and he was a big Bret Hart guy. So, it was crazy, but like he really loved Bret Hart, and was a big fan. Obviously, this was at the height of Bret Hart's career with the WWF.
So, do you remember the year, like 1994, 1995?
Yeah, I want to say it was like 94. Definitely,
Okay.
yeah, because I remember being in elementary, like around third grade. Yeah, I think it was like third, fourth grade, because I graduated kindergarten like in 1990, 91. And I remember my cousin liking Bret Hart a lot. And this was at probably the beginning of the Shawn Michaels feud. And for some reason, I was really drawn to Shawn Michaels. I was like, dude, he's really cool. The switching music, just his whole charisma and everything I really liked. And I kind of liked the whole feud. The way they built it up was really great. And then, that's kind of what got me in. And then obviously through that, Undertaker, all the other characters that were there. And then when I moved, basically my cousin, he moved to Fresno and I stayed in LA. And when that happened, I just basically kept up with it via my friends from school. And my friends and I would just watch it and talk a lot about Monday Night Raw a lot. Back when it was like Raw, and then was it Warzone and Raw's War, Warzone. And then I would just follow it through the Attitude Era. And then, I kind of stopped watching it around the same time Sonny did, once after the acquisitions happened and the ECW, WCW stuff came in. I think a lot of it was just because I started going, that's when I went to high school. And the thing is, like, a lot of my friends at that time in high school didn't watch it. So I just had no one to talk to about it. And then you just stop watching.
There's two distinct things that I remember, because Donald, you and I are the same age. So that I was in high school also. I was a freshman when I stopped watching wrestling. Two distinct things in my life that I stopped doing at the same exact time. And that was watching wrestling and collecting baseball cards. And two things that I ended up picking up later again in life.
We always do. We always go back to the things we loved as kids, man. The older we get, the more money we have to spend on that stuff, we tend to do.
Right.
All right. And finally, the fourth horseman here in our four horseman clan here, Rick, I got to ask you, Rick Esparza here, one of my good buddies from way back when. Yep. It's good to have you debut here on the podcast. And debut, of course, what we love to talk about all the time at our day job here is wrestling. Everything. We talk everything. We talk WWE, AEW, New Japan Pro Wrestling is a big one of ours too. Pro Wrestling Guerrilla, which we've been to a few times, LA indie promotion out here. Rick, how far back does your wrestling history go for you? What is your first wrestling memory?
Oh man, my first wrestling memory, that is actually pretty tough, because my first wrestling memory wasn't actually like WWE or WWF at that time. It was like Lucha Libre. It was Lucha Libre at what is that called? It's right here in LA. It's like a boxing arena, La Azteca. I think it's La Azteca. And my dad took me to that, and I can not remember the name of any of the wrestlers at that time.
What about Octagon? Octagon? Remember?
No,
Máscara Sagrada? Or these
No,
are
no,
like,
no,
that's Triple A.
No, it wasn't AAA. It was just indie. I don't really even remember.
Wow.
I just remember a bunch of fat Mexicans in
doing forward rolls in the ring.
Yeah,
right?
just doing forward rolls and doing the whole like pushing off and chops and everything.
Yeah.
And then out of nowhere, when you see them like falling off the freaking ring, they're just like slowly and just rolling off like very slowly. It was like old school wrestling. And I don't even know their names, but I fell in love with it. I was like, this is awesome. They're beating the hell out of each other. Or would you say beating the hell out of each other? It wasn't actually, it was like looking back.
As a
it
kid,
was like,
you
wow.
think it's beating the hell out of each other.
Yeah. Like now I was like, wow, they know so nothing. It was horrible. But now it's just, it looks like crap now, but before it looked so crazy. They were doing like every single time like hip tosses and jumping over each other and a hurricanrana, and I was like, oh my god, a fat guy did a hurricanrana with another fat guy, and I was like, wow, that's amazing, But I don't know. After that, I fell in love with it. And I was like, what, 7, 8 years old. It was awesome.
Yeah, it's so funny. As kids, we see these people who are larger than life wrestling because that's what it appeals to, right? It's children, obviously, but it's still impressive physical feats of strength from somebody like that. Like a big fat guy doing a hurricane run is still impressive to me as an adult, man. That's still pretty damn cool. But as a kid, it blows your freaking mind, and it's like, oh snap, what is this thing? I want to see all this, So I mean, wrestling's so awesome. So growing up, though, as you now watch wrestling from that, and you start seeing everything that's out there, who would you say your favorite wrestler was growing up, Rick?
It would have to be Stone Cold Steve Austin. That's my guy. That's the guy that I really just fell in love with right off the bat. I even liked him when he was the ringmaster. Before that, even a lot of people don't even know.
Dude.
Yeah, no, come on.
Shut up.
Oh, dude, come on. He was actually
don't gaslight us here, dude. Don't give us revisionist history.
I'm not even kidding. He was a really good wrestler. I mean, he didn't have much of a gimmick at that point. He was a ringmaster, but he was still a good wrestler. And then, dude, after that freaking Austin 316, oh, dude, that's where I was like, oh man, this is going to be awesome. And it blew, like the day after was ridiculous. And this was before the internet. This was before the internet and all this, where anybody could Twitter it or anybody, it was just already out there. It's like, that was ridiculous.
Was it the $1 million championship belt that he was carrying around? Is that what made you think he was really cool?
Actually, yes. That's actually very true. I love the $1 million belt. That was such a cool freaking belt. That's what I was going to say.
That was the coolest part about the Ringmaster is that the $1 Million Man was like his manager and that belt. Other than that, the character was whack. I mean, he had no charisma yet.
No. I liked his wrestling skill though. I did like his wrestling skill. It was just a hard tax, just wrestler. It was just a good wrestler. I mean, he didn't talk at that time. Yeah, it was just $1 Million Man that did all the talking, which who would you not better have than him? He was just a great talker.
Yeah, totally. So, Donald, who was your favorite wrestler growing up?
Man. I mean, I was going to say Stone Cold as well.
No, go for it.
Say it. Yeah.
I think what it was is, again, because my buddies in junior high at that time, we'd watch a lot of Attitude stuff. And, just the way Stone Cold was elevated in that moment with probably the ultimate heel till this day, Vince McMahon, being on the other end of his feud. But I think that's what I liked about him is the fact that, you had all these other feuds happening, all these other storylines, but he was the one that had the storyline with the CEO of the company. And I mean, he did a lot of stuff that, I think what happened is he did a lot of stuff that emulated what you wish you could do to those in power, Yeah. And he just did it so freely. And it almost became a thing where after a while you expected him to do that. And then he would just do it and it'd be an embarrassing thing. But yeah, definitely, I would say, as far as just a single wrestler, that I would say just is one I've always liked and always felt like, man, if I can emulate someone, I definitely will emulate him, was Stone Cold Steve Austin. because again, like Shawn Michaels is what kind of got me in, and Shawn Michaels was really good. I'm in the camp that I think I actually liked him with the DX faction too. Like I thought when they built that, I feel like it was like the Shawn Michaels I liked more than the Heartbreak Kid stuff. And I think it's just, I don't know, I think it's the DX branding. I loved it, you know. All my friends and I, we were always doing the DX signs and everything. It was amazing, you know, the t-shirts, everything. So it was cool. Even the merchandise was dope with that.
Sonny, who was your favorite wrestler growing up?
Dude, come on. We talked about this. I mean, Donald alluded to it just now, but to me, again, pound for pound, HBK is, I wouldn't say the greatest, but the most important wrestler in the history. I guess I would argue Hulk Hogan maybe is slightly more important overall. He's kind of maybe the Babe Ruth of wrestling, the modern era of wrestling. Rick, I can't wait to hear your.
Rick disagrees.
We'll get to that. I mean, I'm not a Hulk Hogan fan, but I can't. You know, you have to acknowledge like his role in elevating the business or the sport, you know. But on that same token, to me, Shawn Michaels, man, that to me will forever be the best wrestler of all, the most entertaining and athletic wrestler, an important wrestler. The Rock is a close second to that, but Shawn Michaels, dude, that dude had it all. He had the charisma, like Donald said. I mean, whether he was with the faction, he was cool with the Rockers, just their style of tag team. So he was in a great tag team unit. The storyline on how that tag team broke up was amazing.
Absolutely.
You know, the run that he had as an individual wrestler, like Donald said earlier, setting up his feud with Bret Hart, which ended up lasting like 3.5 years, basically. And it was always riveting. Those were the two top dogs in the sport at the time. And then the D-Generation X, you know, introduction of what he started there. And unfortunately, I missed his reincarnation, his comeback, because like I said, I stopped watching in 2002, and he apparently went on to have another great run from 2003 to 10, basically. That I'm only having to catch up now. I did watch a couple fights in real time, you know, when I found out he was wrestling again. But again, at that point, I was already kind of over wrestling. But yeah, man, that was my guy. Speaking of merchandise, I remember buying a shirt. I was in the 4th or 5th grade and wearing it to school, and they ended up calling my mom and being like, you know, he wore this disrespectful t-shirt. Now, mind you, like the shirt said, I have a problem with authority. And it's like Shawn Michaels, like this, you know, and I didn't fucking know as a kid, right? You know, like it just had my favorite wrestler on it, you know. It was like, so, but I think that, you know, it gave me some street cred. So even more so, I was like, yeah, Shawn Michaels DX, fuck you guys.
So he's the wrestler who spoke to you the most,
exactly,
as
man.
a kid.
Exactly.
Awesome.
So. Yeah.
So for me, my favorite wrestler growing up, man, it's because it started at WrestleMania 5 for me. It was Hulk Hogan, dude. Hulk Hogan was like started me into like this guy can. It's obviously because the character that he portrayed, obviously in wrestling, is that guy who's like taking the beating, and all of a sudden he just snaps. And all of a sudden, like, you can do no physical damage to him anymore. So as a kid, you watching this, it's like, what is this guy? This guy's not human. Like, this guy is just gonna find a way to win and power. Take powers from God knows where and find the power and energy to come back and win a match. So as a kid, you're like, this guy's the best thing ever. I don't care who he's gonna fight. He's gonna find a way to win. So whoever you throw at him, he's losing. Because Hulk Hogan is the best. So for me growing up, man, it was all Hulk Hogan. I remember as a kid also eating those ice cream bars.
Yeah,
the wrestling ice cream bars.
They're bringing them back.
That's true.
They're actually bringing them back.
They've been talking about bringing those ice creams back for the last like 7 years, man.
No, they actually are.
They keep playing
back
with
at
my
Walmart.
emotions. Don't
They
fuck with me,
actually are
Rick.
back. No, they are back. They're back.
You lie, your web of lies. They brought him
They're the
back, Rick,
superstars,
as
right?
ice cream. No, as ice cream. Not bars, as sandwiches. Ice cream sandwiches.
They're sandwiches. Yeah,
Not
they're
the
bars
same,
anymore.
man.
Not
It's
the
not
same.
I guess not. It's not the same. But
Not the same, yeah.
Now we're gonna do a separate podcast on just ice cream here, and I'll tell you why they're not. Why they're totally different.
Exactly.
Oh god damn! But no, the whole thing with Hulk Hogan and wrestling back in the day, like to your point, Sonny, it's funny that wrestling always has that person they have to pass the torch to. You know, like Hulk Hogan, and then Shawn Michaels. I would agree with you. I feel was like the face of WWE. You know, Bret Hart, Hulk Hogan, like Hulk Hogan. Bret Hart, kind of in quotes, you would say.
Yeah.
Shawn Michaels, then the whole Attitude Era of The Rock, Stone Cold, and then John
Triple
Cena
H.
after that.
Don't forget about Triple H. Yeah,
Who?
yeah.
You mean the guy who's in charge over there?
Yeah. Because for a second, as the game, him, and whether it was his feud with The Rock or his feud with Austin, or with McMahon, like that guy was a key part of the bridge. You know, the connective tissue to what came after.
Whoa, what a conversation, am I right? I'm sure you remember some of the matches we discussed and where you were when they occurred. The WWF/WWE Attitude Era is by far our favorite time in wrestling history. Thanks so much for checking us out and allowing us to geek out in front of you. Stay tuned for the next episode as we bring you part 2 of this discussion, where we talk about our first live event experience and what wrestling looks like in 2020 during the pandemic. Until next time, later.